I think I might be known as the Mr. Reinvention. I think what it did give me is the work ethic, being able to work with a team, being able to pick up new skills really fast, especially me playing Australian rules football in Australia for 4 years.
Hmm.
First year not knowing anything about the sport and just having to learn really fast. I'm never shutting my door to knowledge from any direction. And especially when you have interpersonal relationships or connections with people. If they're still in your life and you've already done the work to weed out the people who don't need to be there,
Hmm.
always learn from those people. Reigniting the personal, individually motivated polymathism inside. Because sometimes there was a phase not too long ago I didn't feel like a polymath.
Welcome to the Polymath podcast, highlighting your multidisciplinary life, showcasing that it's okay to do many different things. Hello, I'm Dustin, PolyInnovator. Today I'm talking with the Polymathic Eric Wallace. This is the round 2 PolyCast. And so he is a photographer, big and tall model, storyteller, actor, director, videographer, and founder of Verrocchio Studio. Thank you for joining me on the show again, sir.
Thank you for having me.
I always love it when I run out of breath doing an intro.
Yeah, man. I sometimes forget sometimes. I'm like, wait, yeah, that too. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where even on your profiles, I noticed that actor wasn't really on there anymore. Like I saw director, but not so much actor. I'm like, man, I knew you from like Endgame and stuff like that. Or was it Infinity War?
Well, actually, it was funny because I just did did a couple self tapes 2 days ago. Um,
Wow.
so acting's still there. It's just more. I think. I get into these seasons of yes, I'm a polymath, but I want to showcase this more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also do this, but right now I want you to see me as this.
I think that comes from your kind of marketing side of the business because one thing I've talked a lot about on the show and just in the blog post too is marketing and personal branding for polymaths. And how do you go about doing that? Well, you have to sometimes choose one thing, market that in one funnel, then choose the other thing and market it as a different funnel. So people find you for those funnels, but it's hard sometimes.
Yes. I think it goes back to, and I think we talked about this the first time we talked. Um, about the book Walter Isaacson Da Vinci,
Mm-hmm.
and where Da Vinci wrote a letter to the King of Milan. At the time, he was like, "Hey, I'm good at city planning. I'm good at inventions. I'm good at this. I'm good at that." This was his list. Then the
Yeah.
last thing he put on the list of like 10 things of trying to
Mm-hmm.
shop himself to be of use to the kingdom or to the the king is like, hey, I'm also good at painting too. So we all know Da Vinci as the painter, but himself, he was trying to sell 9 other things before painter.
Because you want to do something new.
Yeah, like I'm good at this too. I'm good at that, and
Yeah.
he is good at everything else. But it's like we know him from Mona Lisa.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because since the last time we talked, I've actually done a lot of exploration into polymathy and how do we manage our time as polymaths, and knowledge management tools have been kind of my main forefront. And one thing I came up with that I want to tell you about, because I think you would be interested in just the wording, is phases. So we have like projects and tasks and goals, but within all those kind of make up our phase, and each phase is an area of knowledge or interest. And sometimes those phases overlap and interleave. As you were saying earlier, though, sometimes you want to focus on just one thing.
Yep.
And so I kind of explain it. I'll stop rambling in a second, but I kind of explain it in this way. You got the 80-20 rule that everyone always talks about, Pareto principle kind of thing. 80% of your focus on the main thing, 20% on either the future or past. I like to split it like 10-80-10. So 10% keeping the fire lit of a previous one, 10% sowing the seed to the next one, 80% of the main one. But sometimes I go, 20-20-60, or even
Yeah.
2023, I was doing 33-33-34. I was split between 3 different ways. And I knew that going into the year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, sir?
No, I agree. Definitely with the phases, because sometimes, I mean, even as we get older, life
Mm-hmm.
changes. I'm in New York, so I'm settled into New York a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Your situations change, and then sometimes you need to adapt new skills to go to a whole different route that you didn't even see coming 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So you might need to push one of your personas to the back a little bit. That's still part of you. You're still good at you know knitting, sewing, cooking, whatever it is that skill set is, but you might need to take on a different role to go get you to that next level. Yeah, for me, it's now it's more because I was a photographer.
Yeah.
and video just came about. So, I was actually forced into the, or, social media, you got to be able to do
Yeah.
some type of video editing and, Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. But I got one of my best clients, my celebrity client. She asked for a photographer, but she really wanted a videographer that could take photos.
Hmm.
So in that instance, I had to, good thing I'd practiced already and I was good enough to do it.
Yeah.
But in that instance, I was hoisted into the position of, oh, you're, video. No, let's push
Mm-hmm.
video. Now present yourself as not just a photographer and model, you're photographer, model, videographer. And then, sometimes you start looking at, well, can I be a filmmaker?
Mm-hmm.
Can I be a DP? So you start to open up, the realm of polymathism to something different that you didn't even see coming 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I didn't think I'd be in New York.
There's a lot of creative polymathism involved there too. I think that with polymaths in general, we tend to spread to the other things naturally, and that happens in sciences and the hard shell polymaths, but even the creative polymaths too. And it probably is a little bit easier in the creative world because creativity is not like you're not learning physics per se, but it's still a hard skill you have to learn, like taking proper photos, learning the
Yeah.
LUTs and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And it's interesting the way you describe it there, Eric. I find that as a content creator, like you said, you have to do video. And what you said there made me realize, like when I started doing interviews, I was pivoting. I literally, we were all stuck at home, and it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, this is an opportunity you can't like pass up.
Yeah. I mean, with the movement or the rise and growth of like just technology and social media, and then especially with 2020, people are starting to feel that their side hustle has
Mm-hmm.
become something of more importance to them. And that's how it should have been in the first place. Your job's your job, but you also have like a hobby or something that you do for you or something that, can bring in a little bit more fun money
Mm-hmm.
or second. Sometimes people are forced to do it, but, that's different situations. But with the rise of technology and social media, we have to wear different hats. And
Yeah.
especially in creative, I've done photo shoots with a full team of 6 people: hair, makeup, stylist, creative director, assistant, photographer. But I've also done a photo shoot where it's just 3 people: me, the
Mm-hmm.
model, hair and makeup artist. She does both, and I'll do the styling and make the set and everything. So that's wearing different hats. And, especially in the creative industry, sometimes we do have to do that. But, every industry is different.
Yeah. I wish we had this conversation sooner because I knew that you and I would always just like have such a great collaborative mindset with these calls, and that's why I don't know why I never did, but I finally released our second conversation. We were talking like this one day, like after we had done our first
Yeah,
interview
yeah, yeah.
just on Zoom, and I was like, we should record this just for like
Bro,
future sake. And
I
then I
was, and
didn't.
I was just at
Yeah,
home. I was at home in
yeah,
North Carolina just visit the time, I think.
yeah. Well, and it's just funny because like we were just chatting and shooting the stuff, and then all of a sudden I realized last year when I started this season, like, this is a really good conversation. Let's post it. And now I get to have you on as the like final interview of this season, which is kind of cool. In fact, you were one of my first guests on the show, number 7, which is like that you were early on. So thank you for believing in me and believing in the show.
Now I'm inspired, man. You doing it, putting it out.
Thank you. Just for reference, you're 141 now
Whoa.
for this round 2. Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice,
sorry.
man.
What all have you been doing since the first time you came on? You've talked about some of the videography and photography. You moved to New York. What else?
Man, a lot of it's been really putting my head down and trying to make connections.
Mm-hmm.
Photography, trying to grow in that field. Videography has become a new passion or new skill set that I've picked up and starting to hone. Modeling is been on kind of like autopilot, but still doing that
I still
regular
see some
full
stuff from you
time.
every once in a while.
That's still very much full time. And, I just don't showcase it anymore because that's already,
Mm-hmm.
I do that. People know me as that, or the industry knows me as that. So I'm getting work for that. Yeah, I can still market it a little more and get some more stuff. But right now, as where you use phases, it's video, photo, and then even there, it's kind of like video and photo, but like, is this it? I'm
Mm.
starting to ask my questions like, what's next? not necessarily saying it's not photography. That could be the answer, but just posing the question to myself, because I've also been a person who's moved many different times to different cities and spent usually 3 to 4 years in a place. And now I'm at the 4-year mark in New York. And just pattern wise, I'm like,
It's time.
am I staying in New York, or is it time to go somewhere else? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question yet. So now it's just, I'm in that space of like, want to do more. Where do you do?
Mhm.
And what is that? Yeah.
Maybe you're gonna join me down in Austin.
Hey, it could be in Austin. It could be Dallas. It could be,
Yeah,
anywhere. I don't know. So,
Japan,
yeah.
Singapore,
Man, I love it. Yeah.
Korea.
Exactly. But yeah, other than that, just put my head down, trying to pick up different skill sets here and there,
Mhm.
languages, culinary skills here and there, just randomly reigniting the personal, individually motivated polymathism inside. Because sometimes there was a phase not too long ago I didn't feel like a polymath.
Mm.
Start to feel generic, or just I'm just doing this. I just do this. For a while, it was just modeling. I'm just a model.
Mhm.
I wasn't really taking photos because could be imposter syndrome or just lack of motivation. Sometimes I get in that rut. Wasn't doing
Yeah.
any, but videos was kind of like just because I had to, because for a job. But modeling was the only thing I was like actively doing. But yeah, but recently, a couple months ago, started to get back into the let's find things that personally
Spread your wings.
exactly would reignite the polymathism, and that's where I got into language learning. Like poly,
Mm.
I've always wanted to be a polyglot, like everything.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
yeah, it's like time now. Is time to take some free classes here, pick up Duolingo, pick up a book here, learn a few phrases in this language, or force yourself to be able to communicate with many this people. So I want to know 5 languages when I'm at least 5 when it's all said and done.
Yeah. I definitely think that 5 is a good number because I feel like
Yeah.
3 is too little, especially nowadays when people are speaking so many languages.
Mhm.
It is interesting to think about. Like, I'm on Red Note now, and so I have a little bit more reason to learn Mandarin. And I have some people who are like, I'm able to talk to on there. I've been trying to, if I make a post, I try to make it in English and Mandarin too, even if I'm just using Google Translate just to keep it like consistent, stuff like that. I feel you. I feel one thing that keeps coming to mind is you expanding your content creator life, right? Maybe making more like just straight up videos, or maybe even doing your own interviews with people who you've taken photos of or videos of, or
Yeah.
perhaps actually maybe like a writing thing, like taking your photos and making a blog post about that photo, something like that.
My head gets filled with a lot of good ideas, and we all fall into this issue of not doing it.
Hmm.
Even as a content creator, I'm sure other content creators have that same thing. Like, it was a good idea, I just didn't do it. And sometimes you see, well, someone else does it, and like, dang, I should have did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of ideas where I'm like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. I plan it,
Did you write them down?
write it down, plan it. Well, I
Good.
still have a lot of ideas written down, so it's one of those, get around to it. So
Well, let's dig on that a little bit before we even get to the questions here, because that's something I'm facing. I was telling you just before this call that I'm doing this content blitz, and the whole reasoning behind it is because I felt like I was behind. And part of that was because I started doing interviews. I focused on doing interviews. I
Mhm.
didn't have the bandwidth and energy to do solo content. And so by the time I slowed down the interviews, COVID stopped being as much of a big thing and people started going back to work. I stopped doing as many interviews. I stopped doing as much content regularly too. And so now I'm like, okay, now I need to go back to doing that. And I still hadn't even caught up.
Yeah,
And I feel like there's this level of opportunity cost. Part of me wants to be like, I don't believe in opportunity cost. You could always just do it later. But then one of my old mentors from high school, he passed away around COVID time, not due to COVID, but in that same time span. And I realized I could never interview him now. And it's one of those things where like there is some sort of
yeah.
entropy and opportunity cost there. So what are your thoughts on that?
First thing I'd say, I like the idea of content blitz, these challenges of post 100 days in a row, or post
Mm-hmm.
something every day of the year, or I do like that. Even that's in the same vein as 10,000 steps a day. Because 10,000 steps isn't a magic number. It's just a number that is obtainable by most people to get your
Mm-hmm.
body moving. And when you talk about a content blitz, posting once every day or 100 days in a row, that's giving yourself a challenge to get rid of your insecurities, imposter syndrome, not worrying about what other people would think, uh,
Mm-hmm.
showing your true self, posting the bad and the good and the ugly, So I really do love that. I myself need to do a content blitz. I have
Some kind of,
I
or
have a
some kind of blitz.
stack
It's a,
of stuff that I just didn't post. Maybe it was like, I don't think it's good enough. Maybe it was like, oh man, that window's done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm onto this now. That no one cares about that anymore. I'm like, I
people still
shouldn't
do,
care. You know what I
and you
mean?
should care. Yeah,
I shouldn't care. I've even told the people this, like, just post it. Who
yeah.
cares? And then I'll turn around and not post myself. So,
I was just gonna say, like, I don't care a whole lot about modeling. So I'm not a model. I have no foot in the game, but I still like seeing the stuff you share about modeling because it's something that you're passionate about. Even if you stop doing modeling today and you still just post old stuff, it's
mhm.
something that you were passionate about. It's someone that's part of you. And as a fan of you, I like seeing that stuff. And I know there's other people like out there. Same with photos, same with videos. As long as it's something that was true to you, even if it's not true to who you are now, it still was true to you at some point.
There was a Instagram post. I can't even give credit to it because like it was just one of those you're scrolling and then
Mm-hmm.
it just popped up on a reel. But she was on a podcast. She was talking about success in today's social media is not necessarily about having the best content. It's about because someone else has already done what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? We're all doing
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, there's rare cases where it's different or something, but most of the time it's about people want to see you. You know what I'm saying? Make your content about your story. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm such and such, and this is why I like taking photos of butterflies. You know what I'm saying? I'm Eric Wallace,
Yeah.
full-time professional athlete, live in New York, model photographer, and I like taking photos of tennis shoes. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Get on board with that. I need to take my own advice a lot more.
I think actually I have an idea for you, and I know that this has kind of been a lot more back and forth than I normally do, but you and I just we resonate so much in a lot of ways. And my other channel is about being a modern content creator, and I interview content creators. And there's a lot of things that I'm already thinking about having you on that show too, and
Mhm.
because there's a lot of tech we could talk about, and we don't
Yeah.
go too much on tech on this show, but the idea of something new for yourself is maybe like vlogging, right?
Mhm.
YouTube right now is really pushing the more raw and smaller YouTubers. And so, like, maybe you could do a 30-day challenge where you're like vlogging every day. And then after the 30 days, you don't do it daily anymore. You just go back to weekly and keep it simple. But that way, you have a whole backload of content. You drop them all into a repurposing tool like Opus, and you have a whole bunch of shorts then too. I would even throw them in for you or something like that, just because
Um,
I'm your.
stay
Huh?
tuned because both the Ramen Giant and Big Bow Boy will be vlogging soon.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
Cool.
like I've already laid the foundations for it. Now it's just about putting some action behind it.
Make sure you send me any links that I need to provide to at the bottom. I'll show you what I have already at the end too. But I also wanted to mention there's this really interesting concept called a now page. And Derek Sivers is an author who came up with it. And essentially on your website, you have a page you update like once a month saying like, here's what's happening professionally and
Oh,
personally in my
yeah.
life. And I took it a step farther and I was like, because after a couple months of doing it, I'm like, wait a minute, I kind of want the historical context of what I did 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 5 months ago. And I was like, okay, let's make it into a blog series. So not a static page, but something I can do every month. And that way I can actually go back and read it, or maybe my kids or grandkids can go back and read it. And then I took it a step further and started doing a vlog too, because sometimes I like talking than writing. I'd say something different. And so every month on the first, I do that. And it wasn't until I started doing these monthly stuff, let alone the yearly stuff this year. And I just want to tell you this because I think it might be powerful for you. I did my yearly review. I wrote out what happened last year, and I do a preview. And that's the whole knowledge management system I mentioned earlier too. And this preview, I plan out my quarters ahead. All the stuff I had planned only filled up the first quarter of the year. So I have no plans for the rest of the quarters of this year. And I wonder how you might be in that similar ground since you said that you're already thinking about moving, maybe.
I like the you page. Yeah, I like that because on my website I have feature of the week, and that's usually just my latest photo shoot I did. Then I didn't shoot
Yeah.
for a while, so that feature of the week would be feature of the last 6 months. So which happens.
Yeah.
It was. I do like that because that gives you like a starting point to share more, open up more,
Yeah.
be real, and kind of go back to what you said, YouTube and just content consumption in general is becoming. I like the raw stuff more
Yeah.
as opposed to the heavily produced, you know, big. Even the content creators who have that, those resources like King Batch or the LA crew, King Batch, the Hannah Stockings, those guys,
Mhm.
and War, they're going back to the raw, quick Vine type videos. Yeah, it could be with a better camera, but it's just quick, straight to the
Yeah.
point. So yeah, I like that.
I have a lot of YouTube buddies, and a lot of them have been talking about, especially on their channels, but even to me personally, how there's a lot of waves. Sometimes it's like really highly edited YouTube, sometimes it's really raw, and we're hitting back down onto that raw form. And so just today, I have this little mini PC. You might get a kick out of it. Again, you and I could talk tech every day, but literally, this computer is the size of a Roku,
Oh man, yeah.
and it's like there's a decent amount of videos on there, but it's not anything recent. And I was like, let me just throw together a quick little overview of that and talk about the future of the channel doing more tech like that. And it's a raw video, it's not edited, but it's one of those things where now I have another video on the channel and I get to talk about something that's pretty neat. And now
Yeah.
I can maybe do one on the Xbox Connect or something like that next.
I've been into more I've been into more intentional gear these days.
Mm-hmm. What do you particularly use for videos now?
I have been slowly purging my gearbox because there's a lot of stuff that's been sitting and collecting
Yeah.
dust. I just I'm in a new space where like if I don't use it for a while,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it. And when I do need it, I can rent it.
Yeah. Or buy it
Um,
again.
exactly. So right now I'm filming on a Sony ZV-1, really good vlog camera, really good
Mm-hmm.
camera that I use for my
We got to center you a little bit more, though.
well,
I had
like
to give you crap a little bit. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
yeah. So I use this more for like my FaceTime calls and whatever, and
Mm.
if I just need to go for a walk. But I'm a Sony A7 IV. Sometimes I'll get a FX3 or FS6, whichever one I need for the job. But about to go get the Osmo Pocket 3. That'll
It's really good.
that'll
I love
really,
it.
like I was going to get it yesterday. I'll probably get it next week.
Mhm.
I gotta get some Valentine's Day gifts now. But
Well,
that
congrats
first,
on that.
that
I
first.
mean, I just want to show this to you real quick too. I got the Elgato face cam. You can't really see it in reflection.
Oh
They
yeah,
get
I got those good.
the face cam pro. Face
I
cam
got
pro.
those good. And then a
Yeah.
lot of my stuff I'll get done with the Sony, with the Samsung.
Mhm.
No, it's just about making it look good.
Yeah. And changing the settings. I got the lighting here too and whatnot. I
Like,
am kind of fascinated just how aligned we are in a lot of the changes that we've been dealing with. Just like the fact that you said that you're purging a lot of your tech. I've been doing the same thing. I actually sold my second monitor and I haven't gone down to just one monitor in like 10 years.
I
And so this
still,
is weird to me.
I still have a second monitor. I mean, I still use it. So, but I'm like,
Yeah. But do you need it though? That's what I'm saying. Like, did
that's
I need it? No, not really.
it.
It's useful.
2 days out of the week, it's useful. Now,
Yeah,
the rest of the week,
exactly.
I'm like, hey, you're barely still here, man.
Well, and I had another computer I sold recently too, because I have like 5 computers right now, but that's just because I of many reasons. But let me get to the questions here, because
Yeah.
I know you and I will keep chatting, tons of tangents. On your profile, you mentioned Verrocchio mentored one of the greatest of all time, and obviously we know who he's talking about there. But why did you focus on the teacher rather than the student in that quote?
At the time when I was choosing a name for like a business or
Mm-hmm.
a brand, I saw that Da Vinci would be a lot of people use Da Vinci. Different brands use Da Vinci. We all know Leonardo da Vinci. So it was very like, well, it's already been done, you know?
Mm.
He's Da Vinci, they're Da Vinci. The Da
I saw a lot
Vinci,
of Polymath studios and
a
stuff
lot
like
of,
that over the
yeah.
years.
So I was like, what different angle can I use to, convey that, I'm a Leonardo da Vinci, fanatic, but
Yeah,
also
that's the right word.
Polymathism. I was like, well, who teaches the best?
Mm.
Verrocchio. Okay. And then you start to learn about this guy. He was really good too. He was very, very respected. And he's the reason we have a Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, Da Vinci would have still been figured out a way to be good, but like he gave Da Vinci his starting point or his launch pad.
Hmm.
So, Verrocchio, it rolled off the tongue, sounded good, looked good. So I was like, let's go with that. Yeah. And it just made sense.
And
When I said it, I was like, that's it.
yeah, I love when something like that just clicks. Like PolyInnovator had done that for me, where it just clicked when you
Yeah.
came up with that word. And with the whole polymathy space, I try to find anything that's related to that terminology, even generalists and jack of all trades. And that's how I found you in the first place. The Polymath Playground was come of that at all. You kind of depreciate it at this point. You still have it on the back end.
It's a back end. I might, if I do anything with it again, it'll be more for like a shout out page, highlighting other polymaths, but kind of been moving into other different spaces. But that was a good starting point for me, Polymath Playground. Even when
Mm-hmm.
I had the clothing brand I was doing
Yeah.
years ago. But yeah, yeah,
When I was going through old links, old videos, I'm like, oh, that video, that link's no longer available. Yeah.
yeah. Times change.
Yeah, I mean, given your polymathic background, you have various disciplines under your belt. How did they come together with your photography and videography? Because we talked about how a lot of those creative passions overlap, but how does your other skills beyond that come in?
What I'll say is sports is probably
Oh yeah.
biggest, strongest, and most stable foundation I've had for any endeavor I've picked up over the last decade or since I retired in 2019 football. That doesn't mean because you're an athlete you know how to take photos or you know how to model clothes or you know how to edit video. But I think what it did give me is the work ethic, being able to work with a team, being able to pick up new skills really fast, especially me playing Australia rules football in Australia for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
First year not knowing anything about the sport and just having to learn really fast to be able to stay there. And then
Mm-hmm.
coming back in the NFL, yeah, I played football as a middle school kid, but I didn't play football in high school nor college. So it's like you need to pick up these skills very fast, or
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be at home. I guess that's how it was. So I think just me being able to pick up skills and see things from a different perspective has really helped another, you know, aspect of, me working, especially being a model and now being a photographer and videographer. As a model, that makes my job a lot easier. And it makes the photographer's job a lot easier because I know what they see.
Mm-hmm.
I now know what you see or what you're shooting. So now I can give you even more as to what, you want. It, also being doing it for about 12 years now, but also know what the shot is looking like because it's a camera, it's a set. Okay, cool. I've been on the other side. So being able to be on both sides is really good. I even tell models sometimes pick up a camera.
Yeah.
It will
Play
help
around with it.
your modeling because you'll see what the photographer sees, or you
Mm-hmm.
grow to just. But yeah, I mean, and we all know all skill sets kind of play into each other. It's just but I would say sports. It's been the biggest foundation. I'm glad I had 20, 30 years of sports, pro, collegiate, whatever. And now it's just figuring out how to be a regular human being,
Yeah, there's no regular thing
regular
about you,
human
bro.
being. So,
I was actually gonna say too. I mean, I definitely agree. Having experience as a host helps me as a podcast guest when I go
yeah,
on
yeah,
other
yeah.
shows, for example, seeing it from both angles, like you said. And I love talking to you in this polymathic sense because when I hear about your polymathy and the way your brain works and these conversations that we have, it's a fun, fascinating way of exploring that polymathic mindset. And that's one reason why I like doing these interviews in general. But you in particular, Eric, I think it's just you have a fascinating worldview.
I'll take it. I spoke with real quick. I spoke with a friend of mine. He recommended me for a job.
Mm.
Job, I mean, I'm kind of adjacent to
Mm.
social creative director. Photographers can be creative directors, but there's a lot of different skill sets that kind of go into it as well. Administrative, if you will. It was something he said. He was like, "You're just one of those people that even if you've never done the job, I'd hire you for
You'll pick it up.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I would hire you for the job because you just seem like one of those people that I don't know what I'm doing, but we're gonna get it done.
Yeah.
and I'll figure it. Give me some time. All right, cool. Let's do it. So
It's like Batman if you have prep time.
yeah, I did get that confidence. Like, you know what? You're right. Yeah, I might not know what I'm doing the first day, but tomorrow.
Mhm. Something that I've been struggling with is trying to move to that new city. I've been trying to go to Austin for the last like 6 years, and you've moved every like 4 years or so. So, what's some advice you can share about prepping for that? Like, I've been trying to downsize and save money, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Well, I need to downsize and save money, even though I'm in a New York studio. I mean, New York studio apartment, but I'm paying the same as a mansion in Texas. So that's New York for you. But man, have something set up there already. I will say that moving to New York wasn't my plan.
Mm.
I had gotten a really good job. I don't know if we talked about this, but I've gotten a really good job in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I was based at the time. Then COVID hit, and I was creative lead for a really good, advertising company that did a lot of cool work with a lot of cool brands like your Burberry's and Nikes and Yeezy and all that stuff. And then Lindsay Adler, world renowned photographer, she was offering an internship, and I was going to come up for 2 months out of the 3 months that the internship is for. And she was like, "Okay, cool, that's fine." I got up here. 2 weeks later, I was like, I can't go back. But I just extended the internship into 6 months.
Mm.
And then I was like, I want to stay in New York. So I figured out a way to stay in New York. This was 2020, 2021. And here it is, 2025. I'm still here. So, and I feel like there's a lot of New York stories. Well, I was only supposed to be here for a year, and I've been here 17 years now.
40 years.
I will say have something set up, have a network of people, especially in your industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I want to go down there, honestly, because there's more people. Yeah, more people like me down there, and I know some people down there from that I interviewed.
And New York's perfect for photography, so
Yeah. Speaking of moving, though, you've lived on both coasts. What are some lessons you've learned from being on both?
I like the East Coast way better, even though it's colder.
You ever spent some time in Cali?
Oh yeah,
no?
I did 6 months in LA.
Okay.
And I did a year and a half in Seattle. That's where I got my master's from.
Okay.
Now I travel to Vancouver on the regular because that's where my partner is.
Okay. Yeah. That's a lot of travel time there.
Yeah, I'm just racking up the mile.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of flight rewards and stuff like that?
Yeah. And then I'm pretty good with saving some money on flights because even though I'm tall, I don't necessarily make a big fuss about leg room that much because I usually
I saw some tweets.
I'll complain about it, but I usually sweet talk my way into more leg room.
Yeah. Well, you have that charisma that I think you could do it. Also, there's a lot of airlines that are just completely neglectful, so I definitely get it.
Yeah. I like the East Coast more, though.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I really am excited to talk to you about this because it's something I've been really hyperfixated on, and it's one bag travel, everyday carry, and just like minimalist travel. Yeah. So essentially I got a travel backpack, and it's essentially a carry-on, but you can probably fit it underneath your seat.
I'm that
and it's
guy.
Like you're that guy?
I'm that guy.
Do you have a travel backpack?
I'm a one bag travel man.
I love that. I was worried considering your stature. I'm sure your clothes take up a lot more space than my clothes.
If it doesn't fit, I will, if I'm packing and I'm like, man, this does not fit, I will rework my whole, game plan. Like, well, I don't need this. I don't need that. I can wear these jeans twice a day. So for 2 days, wear these shoes. I'm good. Now there's a couple times where I got to take 2 bags, but I try.
Yeah. Well, you could always do like a personal item and a carry-on, and then at that point, you're not really doing much. Yeah. Like it's not one bag travel, but I wouldn't mind having like a sling for my little Game Boy kind of thing.
If I'm walking to the airport with just a backpack, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Or just one carry-on. That's it.
One thing I got before a trip last year, and I got to tell you about that trip too, is this Retroid Pocket handheld.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I actually saw an ad for that.
Yeah, this is the Pocket 4 Pro, because you definitely want that extra little power. It's about $200, and it's probably cheaper now that the newer version's out. But I would rather get this one than the newer one.
Because loaded with games.
No, it doesn't. And technically, you wouldn't want it to either because it's not necessarily legal. And so it's one of those things where you got to be careful about some of that stuff. But emulators are not bad.
Right.
Downloading ROMs are bad. It was interesting though because this can play PS2, Wii, even very light Switch gaming, GameCube, 3DS, Vita, and if you can get it all set it up and all that jazz. And it's one of those things where I brought it on a lot of trips and it takes up so little space, even in the case, that it's just like you put it in a little sling bag, call it a day, and you can play it on the plane. It's really nice. Lasts a long time. I figured you would like it.
What do I do on the plane? I'm a YouTube guy.
Have you seen those AR glasses?
Yeah. Well, I have which one? The NR Rig.
X-Real?
Yeah, the ones with the big screen in front.
Yeah,
I've seen
basically,
those.
yeah.
I have the Meta Ray-Bans. Those are fantastic for content creation as well.
I felt like the Meta Ray-Bans were limited because they only give you like 15, 30 seconds of video.
They updated it
actually,
3 minutes.
They finally did?
Yeah.
That's good.
They updated it 3 minutes. They just had an update like last month. Updated it to, well, I'm pretty sure that was before, but it's 3 minutes, 60 seconds, 15 seconds. Stabilization is a lot better. Also, translation. They added some more translations. Chinese, they added to that. They added that. It's pretty cool.
I have been digging really deep into smart glasses. These aren't smart, but they're Bluetooth glasses.
Yeah.
So they actually have the sound, they have the blue light filter, and they have the chromatic adjustment when it comes to the UV sun. So they'll get slightly into sunglasses, but these are like $30 versus the $300 that these other smart glasses are.
I use those glasses more with my headphones than anything. It's just an added bonus. Okay, let me take a video. Okay, cool.
There's a couple that you should look up. Well, Lumos is one of them, although I was looking at one just the other day.
There's also another.
LookTech.
There's a good
LookTech is the brand.
There's a good AR glasses that are coming out there.
There's X-Real, Future.
Something reality. Yeah, those have real-time translation and real-time.
These Lumos ones do too. Yeah, and it's. I actually have a blog post I can edit in the description for people and send it to you too, Eric, where it's just a list of all the smart glasses that I found. Because it's just like there's a lot of them that are coming out right now. Some of them even have a screen built into it, so you can have like a little HUD.
Exactly.
And like
I like where we are with tech.
Yeah,
I do like where we're at.
Any particular cool tech besides these glasses coming out that you're excited about?
Coming out, man. I mean, I know the Osmo Pocket DJI Pocket 3 is a year old. I don't have it yet, so when I have that, man, the AR.
Of course, when you get it, probably the 4 one will get announced.
Yeah, the 4 will be announced right away, and then probably the AR glasses. Whichever company does the better thing that works for you. I have Meta right now, and that's really good with the video and stuff. It's just, but it is eating up a lot of storage on my phone. What was it? With the videos,
you gotta get one of those MagSafe SSDs or something like that.
Samsung, I got the Z Fold 5. Is an expensive, fantastic phone, but they took away the expandable storage. So
not even you can always use like a USB-C.
Yeah, it was just a lot of hassle doing that.
A lot of extra work. Yeah. I feel you. I forgot that you're an Android guy like me, so I'm proud of you there.
You Android all day.
I have been really nerdy about Linux as of late too, Zorin OS, which is just a really cool distro. But without getting too deep in the weeds there, I'll get to the next question here, because something I talk about a lot lately, and I've seen a lot of other creators like Dan Coe build his entire basically repertoire of content around, is this digital renaissance we are in. As a creator economy, the AI boom, these technologies that we keep just talking about. What are your thoughts on that, the digital renaissance?
Especially in regards to AI, I like it. It's scary, the fact that you can create and formulate a lot of things at a moment's notice, but we're working to make our lives easier. I always joke about this too. People will always, we'll get into the conversation like, man, AI is just taking everything over. I'm like, well, AI can take over everything as long as I don't have to worry about rent. If robots want to do every single job, fine. Just don't kick me out of my apartment because I don't have a job anymore. Yeah. Or someone else, we don't have a job anymore. But yeah, I like the fact that, we're supposed to be making technology to the point where we don't have to worry about it. Flip side, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate on it. As a person who likes knowledge and being a polymath, learning things, I do feel like we no longer know things anymore. We just have access to the answer. Back in the day, what you ask your mom, if she didn't know, you won't know the answer until you go look it up in a book.
Yeah.
Before the internet, you had to go look in the book to be like, okay, okay, all right, this is why the pilgrims or whatever, or yada, 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 cool. So now it's like we don't necessarily know many things anymore. Now it's this, what's the name of, how do I, cool.
Or you could just be like, hey, tell me this from the glasses too.
Hey, exactly. Which isn't a bad thing, but it's kind of like, man, you know, it's tough to see knowledge being, not necessarily the most important thing, but knowing how to interact with information is the thing now, because we have all the information now.
Yeah.
I kind of like the Renaissance. It's just, how we maneuver through it with, discretion.
It's still integration too, like taking in all this information and actually using it.
Oh man. Yeah, I kind of see from the standpoint of like the older generation, like our grandparents, not necessarily keeping up, cell phones now, or the newest technology. It's kind of like, because it's moving so fast.
Yeah.
8 months ago, you look at an AI generated video, you can tell it was AI. We look at an AI generated video now, we're like,
I can't tell.
I see that part, but like, whoa, this is scary.
Yeah.
Just saw a deepfake video of Stephen Curry. They were like putting random voiceover and talking about like, yeah, I need to get out of Golden State and go to LA with the Lakers. I was like, we know this is deepfake, but this is scary good.
Yeah. And one thing that's really cool as a content creator is this idea of dubbing too.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
always been really focused on globalization as a creator. And there's a lot of really cool features coming out. I mean, YouTube's building it built in, but there's a lot of cool tools that if you're not ready for that or don't have access to that feature yet, you could just auto dub your content and then upload that dub to it, or even the subtitles too. It's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Well, I was just explaining it to my mom. I was like, there are people who have YouTube channels who don't do any of the content. They'll just have like a rolling. They're the videos of like random scenes with a random voiceover, random motivational saying. Well, someone just did AI for that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that's using technology though.
I definitely think that AI content's not inherently bad, and I know there's a lot of creators who do think that, especially like creative people like you who do photography. Like there's some use cases where maybe your photo.
I've used AI to come up with really, because I've had an idea and I've typed it into this when I was using Midjourney more. I was like, can you help me bat this out? I need to see this. And it's come up with the idea like, that's not what I had in mind, but that's better than what I was thinking. Sometimes it's like that.
Well, you and I are talking about actually in a way of like being enhanced with AI.
Yeah.
Some people are using AI to replace their creation, and I think that's kind of a bad idea. Yeah. I definitely think that supplementing is actually still okay. So if I'm making 4 videos a month or just 3 videos a month, and I want to make an extra video a week or an extra video a month just using AI, it's all fully AI generated, but it's only 20% of my content. I don't feel as bad about doing that. And it's one of those things where a lot of people are making it for like 80 to 100% of their content. That's not okay. Yeah. But, and like what you said there too, literally just helped me ideate. I actually started to come up with a game that's a Pokemon clone, if you will. And I was using AI to come up with the concept art. I'm not going to use it to make all the assets, to help me come up with the ideas and speed up the process. That's, yeah.
Yeah. I love
that.
I like it.
Speaking of art, and this is kind of like a little bit more meta, or I guess you could say just getting out there a little bit. What do you think, or do you think you make your own Mona Lisa level of art in your life? Like, well, a Magnum Opus, if you will. What do you think that would be? What are you planning?
I think
it's a tough question, so take your time.
I think it's a really good question, and it's an easy answer because I don't. Okay, in the vein of Leonardo da Vinci, I think my Mona Lisa will be a work or a photo shoot or a video or film or whatever I do that I think was unfinished. Not my best work. because as we know, Da Vinci held on to Mona Lisa for a very until he died.
Just kept having
Found it. I'm
strokes.
like, it's almost like it's not done yet. Something's not. Yeah, it was almost like he had it in the corner, and people would come to the room and be like, "Whoa, what's that painting over there? That's incredible!" Like, man, something I've been working on. That's what it feels like, So I
Mhm.
feel like Maine is gonna be one of those like, wow, people really liked that, you know, photo shoot I did. No, I'm gonna like everything I do, but it's kind of gonna be like,
Yeah.
man, let that one pop off. It's kind of like when content
Yeah.
creators say like, man, why did I get a million views on me? Just waking up and saying good morning versus put 8 hours into this other video, only got a couple thousand views. So it's kind of, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not sure.
It's interesting. And it's one of those things too where I like how you are open to the idea that like you're still not going to be done with it, but everyone else is going to see it as a masterpiece or something like that.
I mean, in the creative world, it's kind of like it's good enough. We got to post it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I've tried to like both of us really we shared a hero of Leonardo da Vinci. It's something we bonded over back in the day. And one thing that, like you just said, he's a perfectionist. He kept adding stuff to Mona Lisa. He kept adding stuff to other stuff he was doing. He never felt like he finished. He actually failed at finishing a lot of different things. So something I've actively tried to work on is being a completionist in some way. And even if I fail at it, at least try. And if it's like 80% done, sometimes I'll just post it. Because I'm like, again, like you're saying, sometimes it just has to get out there.
Yep.
Why does he stick out in your mind, do you think?
Da Vinci
Mm-hmm.
as a polymath,
In general, like why do you look up to him so much?
man, this fascination started when I was a kid, and I have no idea why. Maybe I
Yeah,
maybe I
I
was
same here.
maybe I was in my former life, but now that learning from him and studying about him and going to Italy and seeing his works in person,
Mm,
you see how he withstands time. He's timeless. His work is timeless, and what he stood for is timeless. He has his hand is in a lot of industries or inventions that you wouldn't even think he has a hand in that we still use to today. Um, so he stands out because he's a truest form of a person who's just curious or wants to learn or input into many different areas. And yeah, he was a decent painter. I say decent because he figured it. He thought, yeah, I'm
yeah.
good. I know I'm good at. Yeah, I can do this. Cool. Well, like, yeah, I want to do all this other stuff too. But yeah,
Since one of the last times we had talked, I created the multidisciplinary spectrum, which houses all these different multidisciplinary terms. And the one way I like to explain the difference between like a polymath and Da Vinci is like there's polymath, like three or more areas of expertise, but then there's a universalist polymath, and that's where he was at. And I think that that's something that you and I both strive to attain.
he was he was actively trying to learn from something else to bring back to
Mm-hmm.
another thing. So I think that's what separates Da Vinci from a lot of, aspiring or, his mentees, his underlings of polymaths, us. Cause like, he's always like, well, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to do this. So I wanted to see how this works. You know, as we all know, he split open cadavers to see how the muscles, he could paint Mona Lisa. And like, he starts to we see why that painting's so priceless or timeless. He's literally just stand in the water to see how the water would flow, and then you're like, wow, okay, let me see if I can paint this. Like, he was studying physics, and he,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, I think I told you last time, his drawings I think are still used in dental books, like dental school books. His drawings from
Mm-hmm.
100 years ago. Uh,
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, I was doing this and this added to this, but I wanted to do this so I could take it back to here. So he was actively trying to learn from something else to enrich his, polymath.
Yeah. I love the way you explained that. Very articulate. We talked about like that Magnum Opus, and obviously people know Da Vinci as the painter. People know me as the swimming guy, and I don't know if I'm gonna ever go past that, considering that was the first decade of my life. People know me as that. what do you think people are going to know you when you die as?
Well,
If they can only pick one thing, it may not be what you want them to think, but what do you think they're going to think of you as?
hmm, I think I might be known as the Mr. Reinvention,
Okay.
because a lot of people in my first 30 years were all sports. And that's not just the one sport. It's basketball, Australian rules football, NFL. So it's three different sports played on a professional level, and being able to reinvent myself into acting, modeling, photography, film,
Mm-hmm.
videography. Just another reinvention. It goes back to when I was joining the Panthers after coming back from Australia. I got a message from a guy who went to school with me in high school. And he said, man, seeing you go from this sport to that sport to now being on the Carolina Panthers, you motivated me to actually go out to be a firefighter. You motivated me to stop procrastinating on something I wanted to do. Now I'm going to do it. I think it's just, kind of going to be known as Mr. Reinvention because it's onward and upward. I'm in New
Mm-hmm.
York now. That's the New York motto, onward and upward. And it's always just, being ready for the next adventure. And if that's reinventing myself completely or taking what I have already and going somewhere else, I think I'll be known as the guy who was always down for an adventure. But ideally, I want to be known as the Black Dos Equis guy, the most
Hey,
interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink
I
beer,
don't
but when I
know.
do, it's always
Exactly.
we can go on a whole tangent about
Yeah,
that. In fact, maybe the next time I have you on, I'll leave that question for that time.
take it.
I actually have a pretty cool blog post I want to make that I think you'll really like around that idea. But one thing I think is really fascinating that I kept thinking throughout this conversation is that you're a few years older than me. There's a lot I can learn from you just because you've lived longer and you've got to experience more things than I have. But there's also things like my POS that I created that I think will be super great for you.
Yeah.
And I love how, because of our friendship, we can help boost each other up, build each other up because of these things.
Yeah, I'm all for, there's one thing I've always learned, or it's like been a personal motto of mine. You can always learn something from someone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never shutting my door to knowledge from any direction. And especially when you have interpersonal relationships or connections with people. If they're still in your life and you've already done the work to weed out the people who don't need to be there,
Mm-hmm.
always learn from those people, you know?
And that's definitely a good point there too. Like you are the sum of the seven closest people to you. Make sure you choose carefully.
Exactly. So I've always been mindful of who am I really calling my people?
Mm.
Is, where are we going? And where are they already? And where they want
Speaking
to be.
of where we're going, what is next for you on your journey?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like me, the next 3 quarters, you don't know.
I don't. Right now, I'm literally just Fashion Week, New York. Right now, I want to stay in New York. I love New York. I'm a big foodie. I love the food here. The energy is crazy and hectic, but it's, I like it. I'm a Southern slow motion type guy, but I love the speed of New York. I kind of like the juxtaposition of me being a big fish in one of the biggest cities, but swimming kind of stuff, because I can come back here to my space and recharge. But
Mm.
never knew the snacks. It's just, I do want to stay here though, because this is where all the good food is. But I do want to see the whole world. I will say that.
I love that. And something you said made me think of a Robin Williams quote where he's like, "You've done your job. It's time for your next adventure." And the guy's like, "I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow." And he's like, "How exciting!"
Exact. My girlfriend, she's very much, you know, by the books, 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
got a job, you know, and I'm like, man, I look at 9 to 5 people with the utmost respect because I wanted to be that. Us as, polymathic people,
Okay,
especially me being a professional athlete for about 10 years. I've never had like a full time 9 to 5, you know what I'm saying? I did, a little
right.
bit, but never like this has been my thing for a long time. And she'll ask me every night, like, what are your plans tomorrow? I'll be like, I don't know. I sometimes try to be like, well, I'm gonna try to do this, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm like,
None of it gets
oh,
done.
edit a video, I talk to whatever. I'm just waiting on the call, you know. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of my industry. It's just as a photographer, model, videographer, it's like, hey, we got a gig for you. You available Friday? Yada yada. We trying to book you for next week. Cool. But in between, what are you doing? You know, you
Mm. And
find
it's up to
something
you.
to do. Yeah. But like
Yeah,
that's our juxtaposition. It's like, yeah, what am I doing tomorrow? I don't know. And I like that.
I do too. Eric, where can people find you online if they want to know more about you?
Well, I am active on Instagram, Polymathic Wallace, and stay tuned for the YouTube channels. I might get back on TikTok since it's back. Um,
Yeah,
Gotta go viral, but that's about it. You know, while I'm in New York, you see a
I'll help
tall
you out.
giant, I'll probably be eating ramen at some point.
Well, once again, this is Dustin PolyInnovator and the Polymathic Eric Wallace on the Polymath PolyCast. Thank you for joining.
Been a pleasure.